Welcome to Divorce Talk, the voice of the CDFA. I'm your host, Carol Lee Roberts, and I am the president of the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts. And we host this podcast the second Tuesday of each month for information and insight from our CDFA professionals. The IDFA was formed in 1993 to help professionals assist clients going through divorce to avoid any unnecessary financial consequences. During these sessions, we'll discuss how divorce has evolved over the decades, how CDFA professionals and the profession are continually to evolve to help both advisors and the divorcing public. Joining us today is David Smith. David is the chair of our board of advisors. He is also a CDFA, CQS, CHFC, CASL, and a retired lieutenant colonel of the U.S. Air Force. As you can tell, David is a lifelong learner, and we will go through all of the designations after his name in just a few minutes. David became a CDFA, and in April of 2015, he opened his comprehensive divorce financial planning firm, San Oak Financial Solutions in Panama City, Florida. Rather than spending time talking about David, let's spend some time talking to David. And I'm going to start with my first question. David, why did you become a CDFA professional?
Thank you, Carol Lee. I'm really happy to be here today with you and to be able to talk about this and the why and what and so forth and how we help folks. And just one minor thing, the business that I opened was Sand Oak Divorce Solutions. I actually have two businesses, but the Sand Oak Divorce Solutions is the divorce-specific financial planning one. But to your question, why did I become a CDFA? Well, it was probably sometime back in 2014. I'd already been a financial advisor and working in the financial industry for about 8 years at that point, 2 years as an independent person. And I'm also a licensed life and health and variable annuity agent too. But I was reflecting back on my own life, and it really hit me pretty hard when I realized and I made the connection again that there had been 7 divorces in my family. My mom and dad obviously were married. They got divorced. They remarried each other. They divorced again. So that was 2. My mom had 2 more after that, 2 more. As I said, my sister had 2. And she had 1 child from the first. And then myself, I had only been married for 2 years, and I got divorced during my sophomore year when I was in dental school at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. So that was, way back in 1980, I think. I did remarry in 1983, and my current wife and I are still plugging along here 40 years later. And so I'm sitting in Panama City, which is where I live now in Northwest Florida. And I think at that point, from the figures I saw, Panama City was the highest divorce rate in the state of Florida. And I started calling around to the clerk's offices and surrounding counties, and I couldn't believe the number of people that were getting divorced around me. So I really was thinking about what I could do to kind of move my practice forward. And I thought about this emotional financial impact on these families and their kids, and even on my own family, because in 2012, my sister's only child, my niece, actually committed suicide. So I wanted to be able to improve my skills and get some divorce specific training so I could help people go through this process just in a better way, a more affordable manner, especially, excuse me, when you look at traditional litigation and the cost and so forth involved with that. I'm also a very strong believer in education and helping people to understand all their options, what they can do with all their plans and so forth, and really knowing the true consequences of all those decisions that they're making, not just now, but also in the future. So I did some research, and that's when I found the CDFA. And as you said, I got certified in April of 2015. I opened the Sand Oak Divorce Solutions business, and a month later, my sister committed suicide. So within about a 3-year period, I lost 2 family members. So I followed up with the CDFA, and I completed my introductory. These are long words. Introductory, interdisciplinary, collaborative divorce training in 2016. Because I felt very strong, and I still do, that the more cooperative a couple can be, the more control they retain over the process they choose, and most importantly, understanding the advantages and challenges of all the options they have. Because a lot of folks think only one option is to go hire an attorney and that's it. But that's not it at all. So, matter of fact, our local collaborative group here, we host twice a month currently. And here we are, and doing this in 2023. But we host a 2-hour workshop where we actually go through and help people provide all that background information so they can make a better decision and choose the path that really fits their family the best. And that choice, that decision is potentially really going to drive or will drive potentially better outcomes. And so that was just all very important to me, because for families, this decision, the decision they're making, their future's on the line. I mean, there's very little opportunity for any do-overs after the final judgment. This is all said and done. So that's kind of the background about what brought me into the divorce area and how I found the CDFA designation and been involved with the organization since.
Well, one of the things that I'm frequently asked, and most notably at financial planning conferences and such, is why would anyone want to work with divorcing people, because it's so fraught with emotion. And I have said multiple times that, financial planning is fraught with emotion. Financial planners think nothing of asking clients what they want to have happen after they die. Do they have enough insurance? Are they aware how likely they are to be disabled before age 65? We have the hard conversations and ask the hard questions. But can you spend a little time talking about how you deal with the emotional component of divorce?
Sure. Yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of hard conversations that need to be done, and topics that a lot of folks don't want to talk about. And there's no doubt that there's very high emotion, a high emotional level that's prevalent and exists during divorce. And one of the key things I can say that I want the listeners to understand is I work toward trying to help with that emotion by working primarily. My desire is to work primarily in out of court process situations, the non-litigated situations. So, especially in the collaborative divorce process. And so what the benefit of that process, as in addition to being transparent and sort of open communications, this is a team approach where the team is able to bring in a qualified and trained mental health professional facilitator that can actually help to deal with those emotions and communications issues and so forth. They're not acting as a therapist at that point. They're acting more as a guide. And with them being able to do that, then that allows me, as a neutral, working with both parties. The mental health professional is also a neutral, working with both parties. It allows me to be able to focus on what I do best and what I can do and the things that I can bring to the table. It's really no different than an analogy of a sports team. When you think about, you've got skilled players at a certain place on the field at a certain time, and that's the concept behind the collaborative process too. So my approach to the emotions is, certainly I have to deal with that, and I hear that when I have conversations with clients myself, but to bring in additional professionals that can help support them so that they can live the life they want to live and continue relationships with their family and kids in the future, as well as they, assuming they continue to, or with kids, of course, they're co-parenting for a long time. So that's what I think is a value that can be brought for those particular situations. Everything's emotional, you're right, but bringing in the right professionals can help with that.
we've talked to other professionals that have focused in various areas. Last month we had Andrew, and he was talking about the area of gray divorce and recreating one's second act. Do you have a particular niche that you focus on in divorce?
Yeah, I do. And actually, it's interesting you bring up Andrew because I got interviewed on his podcast as well a while back about this particular topic that I'm about to mention. So I was really blessed to be able to attend dental school at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. I did that on an Air Force Health Professions scholarship. So that actually took care of my last 2 years of college, all 4 years of school. And then because of that, when I graduated, I had an 8 year commitment to the military. And one of the best decisions I think I ever made in my life was to decide to stay. And so in 2002, I retired after 20 years of serving as a general dental officer. So I think I'm pretty well versed when it comes to the terminology and the lingo and the jargon and so forth around the military, how the pension system works and that sort of thing. So it's an area that I'm involved in, and it continues to grow, and I want to be more and more involved in that. And I truly love that part of my work. I did mention previously that how important I thought education was about for the clients. Well, I feel the same way about other divorce professionals too. So, because I have presented workshops, several workshops on the nuances of military divorce, a couple of years at the IDFA, the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts. Of course, the logo is right behind you there. Then most recently, just last week in Dallas, that was the first time we'd met in several years. So I have also co-presented on the essentials of a collaborative military divorce at the Florida Academy of Collaborative Professionals annual statewide conference too. I've consulted with other CDFAs on military divorce matters. I'm really happy to do that. I love doing that. So anything that I can do to help veterans, active duty reservists, their spouses get through this process in a more cost-effective and efficient manner, I'm all in for doing that.
Well, speaking of your love for education, can you take a moment to explain to our audience all the different designations you have? We kind of covered CDFA, but can you go through your other designations and explain what they are and why you got those?
Sure, I will. And I know that's kind of bit of an alphabet soup, a lot of people say, but yes, education is important to me. And I actually started doing this when I was still in the military. Um, I was taking correspondence courses for I think both of the CHFC, the Chartered Financial Consultant designation, and the CASEL, which is a Chartered Advisor for Senior Living. I believe I got both of those during the time I was still on active duty. But the CHFC, in essence, is that coursework is eight. If I remember correctly, it was 8 total courses. It's very similar to the courses that a certified financial planner takes. I don't have my CFP designation because of my military service and timing and so forth. I wasn't able to fulfill the work experience piece to get the CFP designation, but I did complete the educational part, and I actually did pass the CFP exam, but I never got that designation. And then as far as the CASEL designation goes, that one, the focus of that was learning more about Social Security and Medicare. And actually, I've been dealing with Medicare myself for a couple of years now, so I've got personal experience there. Still holding off on Social Security at this point, but long-term care planning, long-term care health care planning, just in general, estate planning, pensions, understanding all the different types of retirement accounts, anywhere that what I'm able to do is to help lead clients through retirement and manage and preserve and transfer their wealth. So those two are on the non-divorce, financial planning professional side. The other designation that you see on the screen, the CQS, that's a certified quadro specialist. I got that one in 2020. And for those folks that don't know, a quadro is actually what that is. That's the document, a document that creates or recognizes a term here called an alternate payee. That's the person who's not the employee that has the retirement account. So an alternate payee can be spouse, former spouse, or kids, but it recognizes their right to a portion of a retirement plan benefit. Excuse me. And the quadros only apply to plans which are actually governed by a federal law, big fancy name again. It's called ERISA, but that's Employee Retirement Income Security Act. But one thing sometimes people don't realize is military plans, federal plans, municipal plans, IRAs, the thrift savings plan, defined the pensions for FERS, for example. None of those are governed by ERISA. You still need documents to split the accounts, but they're technically not quadros. They're similar. So I say all that because what I was finding, and I saw many times when I would look at settlement agreements, there would either not be enough language, in there to really point to define what the parties had agreed to, or they didn't know what their options were, what they could and couldn't do, when they could take money. Did they have to wait until the employee begins to get their benefit? If there were costs or fees, if the plan administrator charged those because of the processing of the documents. And so I've seen things that have to go back and get corrected. So now what I'm offering, and have been offering, is coming into a situation earlier so that I can request all the documents for the plan and actually checklist and procedures and plan documents and look through all those, literally read them. I actually do that because every plan is unique and different. And then I can convey that information to everybody, the parties, the attorneys, so that then they have the basis of the knowledge to be able to make better decisions about what they can do. So all of that, all of those designations and everything you see in what I've done, basically that allows me to help my clients anywhere along the continuum, the spectrum of where they are. They can be happily married. And I don't promote divorce. I certainly love for people to stay together. But if they're in a situation where they're planning, thinking about it, if they're already in it, if they need help in the immediate transition right after, and making sure that they close up all the loose ends and everything gets done. I've got a multi-list page checklist of items to consider post-divorce. So it really doesn't matter where they are. I'm happy to help them anywhere along that line. So yes, education is important to me. It has been for a long time. And of course, we have to continue to have education to keep our designations in place. So we have to stay up on things.
I really admire your passion that you bring to all the different areas of financial planning where you can be a resource. And I know that those of us that have the CDFA designation have had access to several different webinars you've provided. But before we end for today, I wanted to circle back to the military questions and resources, and just if you'd like to say a little bit more about how you can help military veterans or even current military if they are thinking about divorce or facing divorce.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. There are a few other things and a couple of other thoughts that I had about the military divorce area in particular. There's certainly a lot of important decisions to be made in any divorce. Of course, there's areas of discussion, but specifically in the military realm, there's lots of questions like, is the pension going to be divided at all? And in Florida, where I am, we're what's called an equitable distribution state. So we're looking at what's marital, actually what was accumulated during the marriage, because all of it's not necessarily divisible. So how much is divisible, and if the service member is still on active duty, for example, or they're reservists or they've already retired, there's additional, calculations that need to be made? Or is the service member going to keep that and the other spouse gets something of kind of equivalent value to offset that? I mean, that's a really big question. If the benefit is divided, does the former spouse qualify to get payments directly from the pay center, or do they have to make other arrangements? And that kind of ties them together for a long, long time. What do you do about taxes? That sort of thing. There are specific rules for spouses to qualify for TRICARE, which is the military medical program, medical health care program. And certainly we all know how costly healthcare, dental care, that sort of stuff can be as we age. The timing of when the divorce happens, as to if somebody can delay a little bit and then maybe qualify, that also affects how they file their tax returns, of course. Beneficiaries for survivor benefit plan, that's money if the military member passes away first that a beneficiary could receive for the rest of their life. Big questions around that, and how someone can sit in that chair and basically be that named as that beneficiary. Other things such as actions that a person might take to affect their eligibility. What about educational benefits that the service member has post 9/11 GI Bill? And if they transfer those entitlements and they decide to take them back, which is their right, what happens there? There's all these kinds of things. So do you remember the show Columbo from a long time back?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just, my wife loves, I mean, she just watches that stuff. He's got the trench coat, he's got the cigar, and he's doing this detective work. And that's a lot of what this is. It's identifying problems, it's identifying options and providing solutions and supporting people through this because they're dealing with so much. To be able to come in and clarify things, give them a clear picture, and support them through this process all the way through, and give them a visual of what their financial life is going to look like into the future, not just today, I think, as I mentioned before, but the next 5, 10, 15 years. So all of that to me is very important. And I just think having that, it makes better, more confident conversations, just better decisions in the long run, and ultimately better outcomes for the family.
I want to thank you for taking time to talk with me today, but more importantly, I want to thank you for your service on our board of advisors, for all you've done to help our most recent conference and the presentations you've made on military divorce. I think it's very important that people realize that those people that are working in divorce financial planning or as CDFA professionals are not pro-divorce. We're pro-education. We're pro-informed decisions. We're pro making sure that there's no unintended consequences from divorce. And I think you did a great job of explaining that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Curly. I've really enjoyed being with you today, and I appreciate the time and the invitation.
Thank you.